Hi, welcome back to my garden. During the past week, I had one of those moments when a song lyric kind of got stuck in my head. Just couldn't get it out. But the more I thought about it, the more it seemed to fit in with things I've been trying to say. So here goes. The lyric in question goes like this. Now, I'm not going to panic not. I'm not going to sing it for you. I'm really not much of a singer. So I'll just quote it. Slow down, everyone. You're moving too fast. Now, not sung, perhaps you don't recognize it, but it is quite well known. It's from a song called Inaudible Melodies. And if you're from my generation, perhaps the next one, probably the next one, you may well have heard of the singer, if you don't know the song, Jack Johnson. He had his moment of fame, fair amount of success, and he's a very interesting person. The lyric in question certainly fits in with everything you probably know, if you know anything, about Jack Johnson. It's got a sort of zen, hippie, trippy kind of feel to it. Slow down. You're moving too fast. It makes sense. And that, as I say, fits in with Jack Johnson because, he's that kind of guy. He grew up on the north shore of Canada, the north shore of Hawaii, son of a surfer, had a very brief, until an injury, career as a surfer, and then actually went to film school in California before finding fame, as I say, as a musician. And you can certainly imagine Jack Johnson's sort of mellowed out surf rock style. You can hear him strumming along on an acoustic guitar and singing that song. And if I'm being truly honest, most songs that I hear, I'll pick up a few lyrics, but I'm not someone who sits dissecting the lyrics. I kind of get a flavour, and that's about it. I'm more on the music side of things. Although, just as I don't sing, I'm not a musician. So I thought, well, it makes sense, this sort of mantra, actually, from the chorus. Slow down, everyone, you're moving too fast. It makes sense as a sort of message for our modern age, and certainly, as I say, fits in with things that I've been talking about. Disconnect. Don't get caught up in this whirlwind of a virtual world, social media. Get in touch with real things, your inner feelings, nature, all that sort of good stuff. And that certainly, as I say, definitely does seem to fit in with Jack Johnson. But as I dug into the inevitable online song analysis, here I am saying disconnect. But of course, if you're trying to get to grips with a song, you Google the lyric and, hey presto, you get some very interesting information. For example, until I Googled that, I didn't know that much about Jack Johnson. I had no idea he'd had a degree in film studies. Had I paid more attention to lyrics, there's a reference to Eisenstein, and I know he's a sort of film theory director kind of dude. There are actually, when you read the lyrics, other mentions, sort of references to that you start to pick up to film. So the song kind of works on two levels. It's sort of as I say, a mantra, metaphor for our modern age, and perhaps how we could live better. But it is also very directly referencing all sorts of things to do with cinematography. And as I dug in a little further, a number of people started mentioning an extraordinary, curious fact. And the fact is this. Apparently the original Jack Johnson lyric went like this. Slow down, Bruce, you're moving too fast. Wow. Now, who might Bruce be, you're asking, possibly. But if it's slow down, and if you're a real karate geek, you might recognize what they're talking about. Because apparently, when they first started filming Bruce Lee, his movements were so fast that, they were kind of blurry when filmed. They were faster, more action per frame, or however it might work. You sort it out, but it makes sense. Films are not a continuous thing. They're just simply an enormous number of frames looped together. So if more action is happening than can be sort of picked apart between the frames, well, your film is blurry. It's not going to work. And hence there was a request to the master of Kung Fu to slow things down. And that's fascinating. Actually, it sort of fits in with the title, the Inaudible Melodies. Because when he's talking about Bruce Lee, it's not inaudible melodies, but it would be almost uncatchable movement or invisible movement. Movement that defeats, if not the naked eye, but the eye of the camera. Something like that. I'm sure you know what I mean. And as I started thinking about what this might mean, this song for us in our modern age, I thought, well, we're sort of the camera, and the rapid movements, the kind of quick-fire karate chops that are being thrown at us are not chops, but they're gobbets of information in the virtual world. And it is moving too fast. It's being thrown at us to sort of blur our minds. And it's a deliberate thing. And so that seems to be advice that really sits well. That we need to kind of step out and engage with things on a level at which we can actually perceive and pick apart, our cognition can work, the information that we're receiving. Because it does seem to me that the information we are being swamped with this information because it's a deliberate strategy. And it's very unsettling. As so often when you perceive things on a sort of subliminal level, well, it tends to be. There's a famous story that in The Exorcist, they apparently had a sort of a recording of pigs squealing in a slaughterhouse, sort of playing the squeals on a subliminal level in the soundtrack. And people became physically ill in the test audience. So they had to remove it. It wouldn't do to have a lot of vomiting in the theatre. Frighten your audience is one thing, but projectile vomiting isn't actually what you want. Maybe on the screen, but not in the audience. And I've actually had not a similar experience, but another form of this kind of, when you start perceiving stuff on a level that you're not really aware of. And perhaps you have had this feeling too, if ever you've had the misfortune to have been burgled. And my feeling was this: I returned to my house, I walked in, or apartment, and there just seemed to be something wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. The door opened as per normal. I walked in, it wasn't a bomb site, but little by little I started to pick together signs that things weren't where they were supposed to be. And it was very unsettling until I eventually realised that no, I'd been robbed. And I've spoken to a lot of people, and they've had a similar sort of experience. When something has happened, you can't pin it down, but on a much more fast processed, instinctual sort of level, you're piecing together that things don't quite add up or aren't as they are supposed to be. So slowing things down makes all sorts of sense. And it also makes sense, I think, when we're learning. And actually I'm going to make another video about this, sort of applying it in more detail to the thing that I'm learning at the moment, my chess, because it definitely seems to be advice. Slow down, everyone, you're moving too fast. Seems to be perfect advice for adult chess improvers. But I think it's fantastic advice for people learning pretty much everything. I mean, I'm not saying in every single thing that you're doing you need to slow it down, of course. But let me spell out what I mean, and let's stay with the music for a while. Imagine our friend Jack had us gathered round and was teaching his song, and we were giving it a go but making a bit of a mess of it. Well, that would be his advice. Slow down, everyone. You're playing too fast. And he might slow down. It might be a problem for the teacher that they're presenting the information too fast. So the person trying to perceive things needs to slow down, just as the people delivering the information. Of course, in our virtual world, they don't want us necessarily to understand things clearly or deepen our understanding. They want to bamboozle us. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's something to what I'm suggesting. With music, it definitely is the case that if you're learning to play something, you slow it down, set the metronome to a speed that you can just about manage, just at the edge of your limits, and you play it until you've nailed that speed, and then you just pick it up ever so slightly. And this was advice given to me when I was doing weight training by an English junior powerlifting coach. He said, look, you're trying to improve your bench press. Don't put more weight on. Strip it down, get down to weight you can manage comfortably, and really hammer the reps on that, and then increase it 5 kilograms at a time. And do that for a period of time, and then come back and try and see what your maximum is. And it was amazing. I'd sort of added 20 kilograms onto my top lift by not going anywhere near it for a long period of time, just breaking down the movement until I had everything under control and in place. And I think that is what we need to do. We need to slow down the amount of information we're receiving. We need to slow down the pace at which we're processing it. We need to construct our song at a pace that is natural to us. And we shouldn't allow ourselves to be rushed by this outside world. Because very often, what we're listening to is not reality. And this brings me on to another of those famous musical anecdotes, the story of Robert Fripp, playing a piece of music, and he, famous for his technique, he went away, learned the piece, came back, played it at an impossible to play guitar solo, played it in his local crowd at the local guitar store. He might have been a bit of a Gestapo guitar teacher. But Robert Fripp played it, and then afterwards, when everyone was in stunned silence at this amazing virtuoso performance, he said, I think you'll find that's 15 seconds faster than the original. And his friends all said, but Robert, didn't you know? The tape was sped up. No one could play that at that speed. And I think that's the problem with information and things that we're trying to learn. We're here in the sped up version. We need to find the slowed down one. So there we are. Jack Johnson's advice that I think has stood the test of time. It probably goes back 20 odd years, but slow down, everyone. You're moving too fast. I think that's true for a lot of what we're trying to do. Anyway, I'll have more to say about this on my chess channel, but if you're not a chess player, this is probably about enough. Otherwise, trust your lives are filled with joy, and until next week, it's ciao from a sunny Brazil.